All right, welcome to The Objective Thinker. I'm your host, Maximus Dertavius. I'm going to be featured here tonight with Hefe Patterson, and we're going to discuss what the Objective Thinker is, what it's all about. We're going to go over some key definitions of objectives that we hope to accomplish with the Objective Thinker. This is episode 1, so we figured we should start off with a good introduction of who we are and what the Objective Thinker is going to do. So without further ado, Hefe Patterson, welcome to the show.
What's going on, Dirty? It's good to be here.
Oh,
I'm really excited for the kind of stuff that we're going to be talking about today. Now, I can't help but notice, I think your name pretty much says it all. The Objective Thinker. What is the Objective Thinker to you? Because I have a pretty good idea of what I think it is.
Well, the Objective Thinker for me is all about critical thinking and trying to look at things from all different perspectives. And, all about critical thinking is a lot about credible sources and what is a credible source. And a lot of, to delve into my history a little bit, I'm a former Marine, and one of the things I pride myself on from being in the Marines was getting to meet people from all walks of life. When you come into an organization like the Marine Corps, you're placed with people you might not get along with. You might be stuck with that person on a post for 4 hours, 8 hours at a time. During that time, you get to talk to these people and get to know them and their perspectives on life. And it really I felt made me a more well-rounded person because I got to grow up with that.
Right.
And so
there's so much diversity in the world.
Yeah. And so when I try to apply critical thinking to things like that, knowing that I don't know everything, that there are all these other ideas and people have these different beliefs and these different backgrounds, those obviously might not always flow with the same ideas and beliefs that I have. And so, you realize that you guys are able to talk about these things without killing each other at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, we're on the same team, So you're able to have these talks. There's always that thing that said you don't talk to your friends about politics, religion, or money, because it's going to cause a big fight, because someone's going to get really uncomfortable because they might not believe what you believe. And one thing, I've known you for, over a decade now, and we've always had these talks where we've debated the universe and quantum mechanics and religion, and we're always able to come from different perspectives and different places of upbringing and still have an educated, informational discussion.
Right. Well, and let me get into the nitty-gritty. What are we talking about here? We're talking about all these different kinds of topics that, like you said, they can be of a sensitive nature, and additionally, it could be very confrontational. For example, I think before we go any further, we need to talk about a couple things. First of them being is that Dirt and I, we are not doctors. We are not college graduates. We have zero documentation to show that we know everything about anything. If anything, I know nothing about everything, and I can't express that enough. Now, Dirt, you and I have discussed a couple times about this phrase, and we've brought it up quite often: cognitive dissonance. Let me read to you real quick what the definition of cognitive dissonance is. See if I can pull it up here. The state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that is something that I run into on a daily basis these days, speaking about the things that I talk about. And it's really unfortunate that what happens here, I think who said it best was Frantz Fanon. Sometimes people hold a core belief that is very strong. When they are presented evidence that works against that belief, a new evidence cannot be accepted. It would create a feeling that is extremely uncomfortable, called cognitive dissonance. And because it is so important to protect the core belief, They will rationalize, ignore, and even deny anything that doesn't fit in with the core belief. And so a lot of the theories that we're going to discuss and a lot of the ideas that are going to get talked about, you're going to have to throw out some core beliefs you've believed in your whole life that, Neil deGrasse Tyson just recently said in an interview that if you don't believe science basically as fact, that's your fault, but science is still fact no matter what. And, I'm obviously not as smart as Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's one of the leading, physicists. Astrophysicists of our time. So, but I do challenge that in the aspect that a lot of the things that we're going to be discussing are scientific theories. And the one thing that a scientific theory, there's a misconception of the definition of what a theory is and what a scientific theory is. And I've had this debate with many people. And a scientific theory is a hypothesis that is supported by multiple supporting evidences that we find as factual and we can observe, right? But that overall theory does allow room for new evidences and new theories to come along. And if they can explain away the other experiments that have been proven, well then there is this alternative way that's not a law. It's not permanent. It's not unchangeable. And by that very token, scientific theory disputes what, Mr. Tyson has said, that it's just 100% fact and we have to take it that way no matter what. Your thoughts?
You bring up a good point. It's like you got, in one hand, you got it saying that it's not proven. It has still yet to be completely discovered, and that it's an educated guess based on the test and results that they've come to develop. But then in another token, it says, well, but it is factual law. It can be changed, and that in and of itself is just really hard for my little peon brain to just wrap around.
The fact that there's a difference between theory and scientific theory?
If you can change it later on. That just doesn't make any sense. I mean, look at that into a police investigation, for example. Someone could look at a video of a guy that shoots another person with a gun, and that person is dumb enough to hold their driver's license up with the picture of their face next to the driver's license. I mean, the most hardcore, ridiculous, never going to happen evidence you can think of, and then someone says, now that's fact. And then someone goes, well, wait a minute. Now we're 20 years down the road, and I'm now going to be able to disprove that video, so therefore it can't be fact. Now mine is the new fact. How can you disprove a fact just because it's called a scientific theory as opposed to a regular theory? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Sure. Like, for instance, in your scenario, let's say that the ID that they held up to the camera was a fake ID. Now, if you saw it and it had a picture of him and it looked real, you'd go, wow, that's him. See, he's even got his ID in the picture. But that might not be the 100% factual, every facet of the story yet. And so I feel like scientific theory...
Wait, but I saw it on TV. I saw it on the internet. It has to be true.
Right. It's got to be true, right? And so some of the things some of these theories, for instance, we are going to cover things like the theory of gravity, the theory of relativity, because some of the subject matter, let's just hit the big nail on the head. We're going to talk all kinds of different theories and ideas, scientific ones and other ones, and I want to compare them. And I like I said, I suffer from a cognitive dissonance where I'm more slanted probably one way more than the other.
Why don't you hit me with some topics here, Dirty? Let's just get it out. Let's let the lead out, let's say.
I quote me on this. Flat Earth is the conspiracy theory that holds all other conspiracy theories inside. And so...
Hold on. I'm getting out my tinfoil hat right now.
Yeah,
I'm getting it on.
You better get it out because... when I ask questions, here's where I feel like this is the cognitive dissonance. I go to the NASBook Facebook page, and I've asked some very legitimate questions, and those are the type of responses I hear right there, Hefe, is, oh, here comes the tinfoil hat-wearing guy who's got a question about satellites. And it's like,
you know what? I experienced that even in my normal job. I mean, for those of you listening, think about this for a second. How many of you out there have a job where you just have a bazillion policy and procedures, laws and regulations, and how many of you actually read all of those? But rather, your supervisor tells you something, you think to yourself, that doesn't seem right. I think it says something different in the actual policy, the way that it's written, or law, or procedure, or whatever it is. And while you go and look it up yourself, you're seen as almost, it's like it's disrespectful. It's a challenge of authority for you to question anything, even when you're trying to do it with good faith and good cause. It says, it's basically like, hey, I'm your supervisor. I say that you're supposed to do it this way. You ask that supervisor, can you give me the section so that I can look it up? And now you're looked at as you're this condescending, disrespectful, boisterous type person, when really, isn't it written that way for a reason so that you can reference it? And it's just all too often that even with the smallest things, that just because someone has told you something, people believe it. And they say, well, this person has said it, it's written in a history book. But it goes the other way. It goes the other way, too. By no means am I advocating that we need to not take anything ever to be serious, because then you're just being completely ridiculous. So the question is, so where is the comfort zone? I don't know. I do not know, but I do know that I strive to be there, and I think everybody has their own opinion on exactly where that comfort zone is, because heaven forbid if you're too far one way or the other. And in the end, it's perception. If I think you're too far one way or the other, but these 5 people don't think that you are, well then, who's right? What's wrong? What's up? What's down? It's a very difficult situation.
I think, and we were going with the cognitive dissonance portion is, I think critical thinking gets equated to conspiracy theorist a lot these days, where if you do ask questions and you do challenge the authority or the status quo or what's the popular belief system of the day, you're automatically looked down upon as a tinfoil hat wearer, somebody who is not educated, who's not intelligent, who isn't capable of forming their own thoughts and opinions.
Tell me about
while
that.
doing research.
Intelligence and education, Dirt. I want to hear about that. They're not the same. They are not the same.
So I'm gonna disclose a very embarrassing fact to show you our transparency. I graduated high school with a 1.94 GPA, and most people would go, "Wow, that guy's a really stupid guy." I bet you if you ask most people who have had conversations with me, they would not say that I'm a stupid person. They'd probably say I'm a pretty smart guy. I've taken IQ tests. By no means am I stupid. I'm an above average intelligence. I'm not quite a genius, but I have above average intelligence, and I try to look at things through these critical thinking lenses, and when I do, I'm met with people who don't agree with what I'm trying to say, and the things that I'm talking about now are so far removed from what people accept that people obviously bust out things like tinfoil hat and the like. And the reason for that is, and I think we've talked about this, and this is something you've said, but I want to say, is when I come up with subjects like these, it's as if I am telling them, hey, that kid that you gave birth to, yeah, that's not really your kid. And their cognitive dissonance instantly kicks in. They're like, nope, I had that kid, I know. Well, what we didn't, and then as I allude to more evidences that might support something that they don't believe, they believe that kid's theirs, I could maybe hit them with, well, hey, you were here at this doctor's appointment, and while you were unconscious, we artificially inseminated you. You didn't know, and you were a surrogate for these other couple's child, right? That could be a more...
And
that
it can go on and on and on. And this, by no means are we saying that this happens. Right. It's just an example.
No. Yeah, this is a hypothetical example. That I'm trying to do a euphemism or a simile in an example.
To show
some of
how
the subjects
strong
I talk about,
cognitive dissonance can be.
Yeah, it would be as if I told you that your kids weren't your kids, and you wouldn't believe that. And what if I had all this other evidence that maybe pointed to something you didn't believe? Or you didn't believe, so then your cognitive dissonance would probably kick in. You'd be like, you're a liar. But what if I really did have the evidence? And so what I'm trying to say is, before you immediately write off, oh, God, here comes these crazy conspiracy theories. Oh, here comes another crackpot theory. I implore you, I beg of you to please open the door, open your mind to maybe believe that you don't know what you think you know for just a second, if you will.
I would say that you'd have to admit, when you walk into something, to be completely unbiased. Not only are you going to have to fight the fact that you're trying to be unbiased every millisecond that goes by, but in order to do that, you have got to take every piece of knowledge that you have out of the equation. You have to admit that you know nothing about whatever it is that you're trying to dabble into. Because if you go in thinking you know something, then it's possible you may not even be able to do a proper investigation, a proper corroboration of any type of evidence, or to look at a display of what's the phrase I'm looking for? Oh, here we go. Direct observation. Direct observation. I mean, look at it for yourself. What did you see? What did you hear?
Yes.
What was your results? But people are very keen on, man, they get violent. They get so violent. I have been called so many names in the past and so many insults. And you know what? Let's just get all the insults out right now. Idiot, dumbass, you're freaking
your kid
retarded.
has Down syndrome.
You name it. It's all day long. Because in the end,
complete strangers hit me with messages that are like making fun of my family. I don't know these people. I just have a different idea than you do, and you don't like that idea. So the first thing to do is this is the cognitive dissonance. When it kicks in, it's I'm gonna make fun of you. And all I'm asking for anybody, and I think this is the main objective of the objective thinker, is I don't want to convince you of anything other than to look at everything through like this equal opportunity lens. So take the theories that you do know, okay, and you know those, right? And you know kind of how they work. That's great. Now set them to the side for a moment. Take maybe some other theories. Pick up a new book and read that book. Open the door. Open your mind. Expand your horizons to maybe there are alternative theories and ideas that explain some of the things that we do observe. You know, for instance, the flat earth. Everyone goes, oh, that's crazy. We've been to the moon. That's a big hot topic right now. And what I can see when I go outside is I observe a flat horizon every time I go outside, okay? So there's one. It says the earth's spinning around at 1,000 miles an hour. Well, I don't feel it spinning.
Let's dabble into that real quick. Let's dabble into
Sure.
that. This is I think the second or third time it's been brought up now during this intro, and it's unavoidable. We'll be honest with you, to you listeners, this is the recurring common denominator of every single thing that we have ever spoken about. It seems to somehow come back to this flat earth topic. And let me preface it with this. I do not believe that the earth is flat. But I will say that I also do not believe that the earth is spherical. And I can already hear the comments coming in. Well, what do you think it is? A pyramid? A cube? You idiot? Yeah, sure. I get it. And in the end, I would say that I have done some experiments, and I am no scientist. I have just been looking at it as objectively as I can. And I'm not going to try and prove it to anybody either way. I would just say that the evidence that I have personally seen and have directly observed in my life are leading me to believe that there's more evidence, not all evidence, but more evidence to suggest a flat plane as opposed to a spherical heliocentric model.
Yeah,
now, we all came to this. I remember the day that I was hit with this topic.
Yep.
And I'm going to quickly quickly go through this scenario. It was a YouTube video, right? And not to get too much onto YouTube, I think it's a great organization. It really allows for a lot of artists to get their content out there, and I'm a big fan. The problem is that because it has a .com on the end of it, suddenly anything you put on YouTube can never be taken seriously.
It's the wild west of information.
Right. And I get that. Is there incorrect information on the internet, on YouTube specifically? Absolutely. A lot of it.
Sure.
But you know what? That doesn't mean that all of it is incorrect.
Sure.
If anything, it's just it's a catalyst. It's the yeast that creates the fluff in your bread. Just something to get you thinking differently.
I almost like to think of it as it's like the video version of Wikipedia, you know, and obviously Wikipedia's gone through that same kind of phase where, you can't quote Wikipedia because everybody can edit it. But if you look at it, it's a lot like an Encyclopedia Britannica, and it lists cited resources. You can go back and double check the things that are said in this, and then you can look at those resources. Are these trusted resources?
And that's just the whole thing right there. It's the willingness to research on your own. Do it objectively. Yes. Don't take our word for it. Don't take the internet's word for it. Don't take anybody's word for it. Go do it yourself. Let us be the enlightenment, the word that was spoken to motivate you to want to do it on your own. Because I'm telling you right now, if I put a piece of paper down and I say 1 + 1 is 3, 2 + 2 is 4, and 5 + 3 is 52, 2 of the 3 answers are incorrect. Does that mean that third answer that is correct is also garbage? No, it doesn't. There's still factual information on that piece of paper. So some can be proven, some cannot be proven. And it's up to each one of you to do your own research. But do not take one false piece of information from one piece of an article that you're able to find because everything else is true and say, this one thing is wrong, so I'm going to completely write it off. Because I do it with NASA all the time. Some of the things that NASA has is awesome, and other things, I find them flawed. Does that mean that I think all of NASA is flawed? Not necessarily. I want to. I really want to write them off. But as my cognitive dissonance kicks in, I have to pull myself back and say, wait a minute. There is still good information to be gathered here.
Yes.
Your thoughts?
I agree completely with that. It's all about combing through the information and doing the research yourself. Don't take anybody's word for it. Don't take my word for it. If you hear me say something outlandish, on the Objective Thinker, if you're on the Facebook page and you say, whoa, hey, the Objective Thinker said something that is completely ridiculous, I have the evidence to disprove it, by all means, please hit me with it. The whole thing is I'm here to learn. I want to have an open dialogue conversation. I want to get as many people talking about it as possible so that way there can be an open flow and exchange of ideas. I think that's one of my biggest purposes of wanting to do this is I've been looking at this for about 3 years. When I first saw the flat earth theory, which we were discussing, the first thing I thought was, what are these tinfoil hat people thinking? That's crazy. We've been to the moon. I've always been a science nerd at heart. So when I started this whole process, my cognitive dissonance had kicked in fully. What are they talking about? That's the craziest, most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. But then as I watched, they did have some good points. They had some questions that I didn't have answers to. And trying to apply the critical thinking, I went and looked into these things. And when they make an outlandish claim, like, hey, go Google pictures Earth, and there's no real pictures, I went to Google and I Googled picture Earth, and I went, holy cow, all of those kind of look fake. That's really weird. Like, why are colors different from picture to picture? And why do these all seem to look more like Google Earth than that one picture I saw of NASA that had Africa and the big cloud that looked like a 7 on it? The one you always saw growing up, the blue marble photo. Well, then... Oh, yeah,
we're going to get into all that. Like I said, it's just a never-ending thing with this flat Earth
thing. So, but that's the point is... I'm sorry.
I want to take us back for a moment. And you mentioned something about if someone has evidence to support something else, you want to hear it, you want them to be to disprove you, you're here to learn. I agree with you.
Sure.
I think what is to be, in my opinion anyway, using somebody else's findings, somebody else's views, theories, whatever, is that really a fair amount of proof that you are to provide? Regurgitating that something that somebody else has discovered doesn't necessarily make it your idea. Actually, it doesn't make it your idea. So, I would say that I personally love the amateur type videos where people are going out doing their own experimentation, and I get it. You're never going to freaking build a rocket and try to leave the atmosphere. But hey, if you are that kind of a guy and you're going to do it, hey, sign me up. I'm coming with you, baby. But in any case, just take that for what it's worth, because reciting something like Aristotle or the four founding fathers, Isaac Newton, you talk about all these great people. You can't prove any of their stuff on your own. If you can, great. And I'm not saying that anybody can't. But you get what I'm saying.
But you haven't done the experiment.
Earth is round because, yeah.
It's one thing to take a science experiment of one of these guys and say, okay, well, they say this and their experiment proves this. But did you go do your own peer-reviewed experiment? Did you make your own and test their results? No. You saw the guy in the white lab coat said so, and so everyone else says, it was peer-reviewed, it's good. And then that's now just perfect fact from now on. Again, though, a lot of these things, and then the video comes gravity into the feed, and the other things.
And then the video comes into the feed like, yeah, look, see, here's the proof right here. And it's like, well, again, I'm looking at a video of something that someone's using that they personally didn't do themselves. So the secondhand information, a lot of times, it's just not good for me. But I also understand that some of the stuff has to be secondhand information because we just don't have the ability to do certain things. So it's a really slippery slope. I'll say one thing and I'll completely freaking counter it with the exact opposite, and I'm going to do that almost all the time. I'm going to go ahead and reiterate again. I am not some sort of professor. I have no formal training in these things. I'm just a regular Joe that decided to look at things through a very transparent and fair lens, as I believe you mentioned earlier. And I just want to know things for being the truth. And it all starts off with finding just one inconsistency from something pick anything and see if you can find one inconsistency from the way that you were originally taught. And it gets crazy. I'm not going to get too far into anything at the moment, but believe me, a lot of good topics coming up. A lot of good things to be said. And we want to hear. I want to see it. I want to see people throw their videos on the Objective Thinker. I want the pictures. I want the memes. I could go without the insults, but if you're so cognitively dissonant that you just can't help it and you have to be an asshole, well, then I guess you're going to be that person.
Right.
So, and we'll allow it. Go ahead and show your colors by just being a complete ranting buffoon, or try to sit down and just look at things for what they appear to be, and let's get somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like, not to delve too much into the topics already, there's a lot more content coming, okay? So this is meant to be more of an introduction, welcome to video. So with that said, I am really, really excited to see the kind of conversations that are generated out of all this. And like you said, there's probably going to be some people that come in. I could do without the name calling as well. It's going to happen probably at some point between people. You're not going to see it come from me. I'm going to honor your, if you say that I'm completely nuts and I eat Tide Pods for lunch every day, I'm going to like your comment and tell you thank you and have a great day, and I appreciate your comments and for coming by. So I'm really open to all days. If you want to come bash me on the Objective Thinker, come do that. If you want to come have an intelligent discussion with me on the Objective Thinker about some stuff you saw, I would like to do that too. If you've got some proof that, I said something that was completely outlandish and, whoa, hey, we need to talk about this, let's talk about it. If you guys need to correct me when I'm wrong, I'm more than willing to. So that's the thing. Like I said, I am slanted probably a lot more one way on a lot of these issues than most of you are going to be.
That's what I'm here for, brother. I'm going to pull you back.
Right? I've also been researching and looking into these things and not talking about them for the last 3 years. I know a lot of you have seen some of my comments on Facebook, and you might be afraid to maybe come talk to me about these things, or you're afraid that people are going to start labeling you with some of the names that I get called. I encourage you to ignore those name callers. Let's come have an intelligent conversation about science, about conspiracy theories, about all of it. Let's pick it all apart, and let's comb through the information that is available to everybody via the internet. I mean, it is the ultimate source of information for all of humanity. It is one of our greatest achievements as humankind. And let's comb through it together, and let's pick through it and find the golden nuggets, and let's try to piece it together.
All topics welcome. Everything that you can't talk about. Religion. Taxes.
Religion.
Your wife sleeping with another man. Hopefully we don't talk about that. But if you need to go there, fine. Whatever. Bring it on.
But you guys want to talk about Federal
discuss it.
Federal Reserve System. There's all kinds of other topics besides flat Earth too. So we're going to get into it all, and I look forward to talking to all of you down in the comments section. If you've enjoyed what you heard here this evening and you'd like to know more, I encourage you to head over to the Objective Thinker Facebook page. This is also going to be posted on the Objective Thinker YouTube page. So stay tuned to those for more. Deeming how this goes, we're going to try to pump out as much content as fast as we can, deeming how these conversations go. So I encourage you guys all to jump into the comments section and let's discuss things. I am always up for a great talk.